Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics and Right. I'm Berto, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. As usual, we are going to have a great show for you today. As usual, how are my peeps doing? I know my peeps are doing just fine because they're in the house. They're in the house, both on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, everywhere else. Great to see everybody. Folks, come on in, come on in, come on in. You guys are going to love it today. As you know, every so often, we feature one of our own. We always feature one of our own because, all of you have great stories to tell. And because we're all part of this big posse, all of you have a voice. And this is, as we all know, your show. But anyhow, let me go ahead and greet all my peeps before we get started. Welcome aboard. Lee Grant is in the house. Welcome aboard, Bridge MCP. Welcome aboard, Tom C. Welcome aboard, Melanie Keelan from Barcelona, Spain. Welcome aboard, Lee Grant again. Welcome aboard, Norman Reynolds, Katy, Texas. Welcome aboard, para Yvette Avery Herod, Atlanta, Georgia. El Señor Michael Rudnin, AVQ up in Brooklyn, New York. Great to see you here as more people come on in. Anyway, I am still in distress. I'm still going through my what I like to call pseudo what do you call it again? PSD, PTDS, PSDT, you know what I'm talking about. Because of what's going on in Gaza, I can't see. Then I hear an interview today on where one of the people on the military commission with Israel, PTSD, saying, oh my God, we will never, in effect, what he said, Palestinians, you are not going to get a two-state solution out of this crap. They're saying before we can even talk about the two-state solution, you guys have to be re-educated. You guys have to be re-educated that says all the bad things that have ever happened to you, forget about it and just live on with it, and we'll all live in peace. And after you have proven that you have not only forgotten about it, but that you can actually submit yourself, then it's going to be okay. It's the only agreement that I can see a state demand of another state, that the only way you can come into existence is if we re-educate you. That is what a guy said today on MSNBC, an Israeli representative. We must first re-educate you before we even think about a two-state solution, as opposed to having mutual respect that says you are entitled to your state. Whether you don't have to like your borders. You don't have to like the people in the other country. You don't even have to like your mother, your father, your brother, or anybody else. You don't. But the requirement that this guy is putting onto Palestine right now to allow the existence of Palestine is that you have to be re-educated and you have to like us. You have to like us. Madre mia, I didn't have enough time to start to record that. It played at 2:00 Central. I'm going to try to get it. It's a long interview, and I need to get the segments of it that make sense so that I can bring it to all of you, my peeps. And I'm going to do that, I hope, for tomorrow. Anyhow, let's see who we have. Daniel Ledo, welcome aboard. Michael Cisak, welcome aboard. Eric Hayes, welcome aboard. Seems like we have the balance of right wing and left wing in our fold right now. Great to see everybody, all of you. Jacqueline Marie Demi Mayo. I don't think I've seen your name in here before, but yes, you're right. It has to effing stop already. You're absolutely right. It is time for it to stop. The murder must stop. The murder must stop. Melissa Bowie is also in the house, so it has to stop. Anyhow, let me do this. Before we're going to play Brother Thomas Czarnik after we play two of the issues. I want you guys to see, first of all, there is today in an interview, there is the ambassador to the UN from the ambassador to the UN says there is no crisis. there's no humanitarian crisis in Gaza. That's what he says. No humanitarian crisis in Gaza. So there are two videos I want to show you. The first one is I want to show you where he's talking about no humanitarian crisis in Gaza. And the second video I want to show you is what Gaza looked like before, after, and how it more closely relates to what it looked like in Mosul, Iraq, that is. But here's what's the kicker. Because we sit down and wonder, America gives Israel $3 billion every year. And Israel is saying to America, shut up. You can't tell us what to do. If we want to murder Palestinians for Hamas having killed our people, we will do so. You can't tell us to stop. We give you $3.5 billion. Now they're asking, we're preparing another $14 billion, of which some of it is coming out of. They want out of our revenue system here in the United States. And again, Netanyahu is saying, you can't tell us what to do. Netanyahu is the same guy who several years ago said that he can tell America what to do. They're a pushover. Look it up and I tell you, Rudnin, I have a task for you, brother Rudnin. Look up where Netanyahu pretty much said we were a bunch of you know what. America could be pushed around. I saw it on a TikTok yesterday and I was going to do some research, but I didn't get the chance to do it. But she showed the article from, I think it was the Washington Post. So Rudnin, if you can find that article about Netanyahu saying that we are pushovers, let me see it and we'll do the link. But anyhow, let's first go with that video that shows that goes ahead and shows Dana Bash talking to the ambassador from Israel. Check it out, and then we will take it on the other side. Go. Israeli ambassador to the United Nations, Gilad Erdan. I tell you something. If you want to understand why it is that so many people right now, in as much as it was a horrendous act by Hamas, but what the IDF is doing in Gaza right now, for anybody with empathy, anybody that has any degree of humanity would see the massacring, murderous effect of that bombing. So we have Dana Bash. She's no kind of a reporter or journalist that is trying to be left wing or is trying to be appeasing or anything like that. Even when she stops the ambassador and says, "Are you blind?" I mean, paraphrasing, of course. "Are you blind? How can you not see what you guys are doing in Gaza? How can you not see it?" I want you to listen to this, and then we'll take it on the other side.
We don't see the need for humanitarian pauses right now because it will only enable Hamas to rearm and regroup and prevent us from achieving our goal to destroy Hamas's terrorist capabilities.
You've said this before, that there is no humanitarian crisis in Gaza. That's kind of an amazing statement because there were humanitarian problems there before the war. And now, obviously, it has gotten bad. But take their numbers aside. Okay, it has gotten to the crisis point.
I'm not saying that the life in Gaza is great. And obviously Hamas is the only one that should be held accountable for any situation in Gaza. But there's a standard due to international humanitarian law. What does it mean, a humanitarian crisis? And I'm saying again, there is no humanitarian crisis based on the international humanitarian law right now in Gaza.
I guess my question is, if Israel wants to maintain and the government wants to maintain credibility, is denying that there is a humanitarian crisis inside Gaza the way to do it?
I'm not denying that the situation in the humanitarian situation in Gaza is very bad. And it's very sad that for 16 years, Hamas exploited all the money that was transferred to Gaza instead of investing it to build hospitals or water desalination power plants, only to turn Gaza into a war machine. It's very sad, but Israel shouldn't be held accountable for this situation.
Let's be clear here. What's occurring? I mean, right now there are groups in the United States and elsewhere that are trying like hell to really demonize, to tag as anti-Semitic anybody who calls out what's occurring in Gaza right now. Whenever they tell the truth about what's going on in Gaza, that the place is carpet bombed, decimated, made to be inhabitable. It's a form of genocide. Whenever they say that, they try to make it seem like one is anti-Semitic. Do not fall for it. There are a lot of human beings, so far over 10,000 human beings that are dying, that are dead. Yes, it was horrendous, the 1,400 Israelis that were killed by Hamas. But these people that are being killed did nothing to nobody. And they are getting killed, slaughtered by a power no one seems able to control. And that the United States, one who funds with over $3.5 billion yearly to Israel, one who is about to give $14 billion more, and we must stay quiet as the slaughter of a people continue? Do you know what goodwill that does to the average American traveling citizen? To the average American citizen, period? Let me tell you something, folks. If people don't activate themselves and ensure that Israel, the IDF, stops the slaughter that's occurring in Gaza right now, the blowback on the average American citizen is going to be unbearable. And again, we're going to ask that question. Why do they hate us? It's not that they hate us. It's that as they see it from their point of view, they see our bombs, they see our monies investing in getting many of their people slaughtered like dogs slaughtered. That is what they see. And you know what? Is that not justified when you see these blind bombs falling and killing the innocent? Forget about somebody saying, oh, we told them to leave, while you're bombing all the areas where they're attempting to leave. While we have a Netanyahu, the prime minister of Israel, who once said, we can tell, the United States is easy. We can tell them what to do and they have to follow. I'm paraphrasing, but I'll play that video for you sometimes, or look up the New York Post article, the Washington Post article about it. Let's be clear here. It is time for a change.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those.
It is actually time for a change. Absolutely. So sorry, I'll find the article, Michael. I'll get it for everybody to see it. I'll try to get it for the program tomorrow if I can remember, jot a note down to remind me about it. But before I get to the other video, I want to read some of what you guys are saying here before I get started. Lee Grant, the war in the Middle East, but there are battles here in the U.S. too. UPenn notified the FBI about threatening anti-Semitic emails sent to university staff, as wealthy donors threatened to pull funding. Amazing. And let's not also forget that an Arab kid was killed by a tenant who said, oh, I was scared that they were going to hurt me. Right. So, I mean, it's not just anti-Semitism that is occurring, but it is Islamophobia as well that's occurring. We need to stop it. And we stop it by being honest. That is what we do. We stop it by being honest about Israel, being honest about Palestine, being honest about settlements, being honest about terrorism. That's what we need to do. Jacqueline Marie Demi Massoir says, this is genocide. 70% of the population has been displaced. It has to effing stop already. You're right. Tom C., who we're going to be featuring a little bit later, says, hope I didn't put my foot in the mouth. It was a wonderful interview, Tom. Let's, like I told you after we were done with it. Let's see what else we got here. David Page says, ambassador to UN from where? From Israel. Michael says, Justin Trudeau talking about Israel-Palestine said, cease and then pause. He was so close to saying ceasefire. Live Mint, back, Israel-Hamas war. Justin Trudeau almost says ceasefire, but backtrack. It's amazing the fear that these people have for, I'm not sure exactly what the reason is. I don't know if it's a military-industrial complex or what. Melissa replying to Eric. Eric, more than half of the population don't have homes to go back to, homes to collect that tax credit. Very good point. We'll talk about that when we're talking about economics. Let's see. How does this help the majority of citizens? I didn't see what Eric said, so I'm kind of flying blind there, but I'll move on. Bridge MCP says Israelis have taken more land in Gaza, more and more, literally threw people out. And that's what they're doing right now. They are carpet bombing Gaza. Notice how they cleanly split it. Because look out, nobody is coming back to build all that decimation that you see there. And talking about decimation, let's look at what decimation looks like right now. This is what the Israeli ambassador is saying. There's no humanitarian crisis. Everything that we're doing is up and up. Check this out. The Israeli government continues to claim that what they're doing is trying to root out Hamas. So the 10,000 civilians that are currently up to more than 10,000 civilians that have been killed, that have been murdered, that somehow that was a requirement to knock out the Hamas and knock out these evil terrorists who killed many Israeli citizens. And in the process, of course, now we're getting over 10,000 Palestinians dead. And they said there's no humanitarian crisis in Gaza. So claimed the ambassador from Israel to the UN. There's not a problem. In fact, they're watching TVs. They're doing the things that they want. The evidence from the satellites tell a different story. And when compared to places like Mosul in Iraq, it's definitely that by the time this is all over, there will be tens of thousands of dead Palestinians. Take a listen to this, and then we'll take it on the other side.
As some dual nationals, foreign nationals, and folks who are critically ill begin to get out of Gaza for the first time since the blockade and bombardment started, we're getting a look at the scope of the destruction there. This is a satellite picture showing part of the Jabalia refugee camp just north of Gaza City on Tuesday. It's a neighborhood. It's structures. It's one of the most densely populated places on Earth. This picture was taken on October 31st. This is what that same neighborhood looked like on November 1st. That's one day later. That's after an Israeli airstrike. The Israeli military confirms the strike, says it was targeting a Hamas militant. The local hospital says dozens of people were killed. Over 100,000 Palestinians live in Jabalia. This is what it looked like last year as people got ready to celebrate the holiday of Eid, shopping for food, treats, and other goods while children played in the marketplace. These are the pictures on the ground after the airstrike on Tuesday. Apartment buildings leveled, hundreds of people reportedly injured, and a massive crater left behind where the bombs hit. Now, it's hard to find a proper precedent or analog for what we're seeing in Gaza, this kind of destruction of a military campaign in such a dense urban area where people cannot flee. The closest there is may be the battle for Mosul, Iraq, after it was taken over by ISIS. So here's a satellite image from Mosul. It's Iraq's second biggest city. This is in 2015. And this is at exact same location 2 years later. Look at that, after ISIS had been routed. Before ISIS, Mosul was a city of well over 1 million people. They had homes and they worked and they ran errands and they shopped and they raised children like you or I. After the ISIS takeover, Iraqi and coalition forces launched a 9-month military campaign to take back the city, and ISIS really wouldn't let people leave. And so they were sort of trapped there, and much of Mosul, as you can see, was largely reduced to rubble. The Associated Press says close to 10,000 civilians were killed during that military campaign. Right now, Israel's military campaign in Gaza appears to be on pace to far exceed that. The Gaza Health Ministry says 9,000 people have been killed in just over 3 weeks. We cannot independently verify that number, but those satellite images paint a picture of enormous devastation.
If you are not sick if it doesn't bring tears to your eyes, if it doesn't bring you disgust for Netanyahu and his clan, that the revenge that they're doing is being taken out on mostly the innocent, then where's the heart? Is there any wonder why so many people around the world are not only disgusted, they're ready to go ahead and say, this has got to stop. This has got to stop. You can't have innocent people at the mercy of blind bombs just being murdered as they are currently in Gaza. This has got to stop.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into.
Bruce Pollard, you're absolutely right. He says using 2,000 bombs, 2,000-pound JDAMs in residential areas was a war crime only the U.S. was guilty of. Now Israel has joined the club. Horrific. Russia has done the same, but not with JDAMs, with other types of weapons. And to some extent, that is why America has to be quiet when Israel effect its murderous regime on places like Gaza, where they just carpet bomb and kill indiscriminately. Because after all, Brother Bush, the President Bush came into Panama, and to get Manuel Antonio Noriega, one person, thousands of Panamanians had to be carpet bombed as well. So this is modus operandi. We talk about humanity. We talk about humaneness. People, we lead by example. And you know what? Israel is doing a good job of following the example. Mosul, they're doing a good job of following the example. Panama, they're doing a good job of following the example. Grenada, they're doing a good job of following these examples. Now we should be atoning so that we can point out to these guys, what you're doing is simply wrong. It's evil. Brother Tim Danahy has a good point. Israel should create safe zones behind the lines of peaceful Palestinians, and U.S. aid should be used for food, water, shelter, schools, and opportunity. I agree 100% with that. But here is a part that I have a problem with. Why do we give Israel a pass for killing thousands of people as we talk about how evil it is for Hamas to have killed, and it is evil to have killed 1,400 people. It is just as evil to kill 1,400 Palestinians as it is to kill 1,400 Israelis. Punto y final. Until we start looking at humanity equitably, equally, all humans are valuable. All humans are valuable. I mean, we have to be honest about this. Anyway, it is time for us to, I had to get until Israel and stops bombing Palestine. One of my jobs, I can't do it at KPFT because I don't want to have to fight yet another battle. But I'll do it here. Until Israel leaves or stops bombing Gaza, every day we have to say something to keep it into the forefront. We can't let Americans forget that your money is being used to murder people. We can't. Every day we have to have a segment on that. But for right now, I want to change the tone. I want to cool myself down. I want to take a breath, reduce our blood pressure, our collective blood pressures, and listen to somebody who is a very good human being, a writer, a humanitarian, somebody who just does right by people, and he's one of us. He's part of our PDR posse, and as you know, we try to feature some of us, whoever has something to say, every so often, because this is your program. So without further ado, I want to bring you to our brother, El Señor Thomas Czarnik. We call him here Brother Tom C. Welcome to another edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. As usual, this is our series where we get people who mean quite a bit to society with the works that they do. And today we're honored to have one of the PDR Posse members, Tom Czarnik. Did I say your name right, Tom?
Right, Czarnik. Yeah, some people say Czarnik, but Czarnik is the way I use it. Right.
All right. Well, welcome as usual to Politics Done Right, Tom. How you doing today, first of all?
Okay, just fine. I enjoyed your show, and you covered a lot of territory, and that was interesting with going from domestic politics to international politics, all the way around the world, in one
sweep. But today we're not even going to take domestic or whatever. We're going to be talking about you releasing another book. I mean, first of all, how many books have you written?
Well, I've got 5 published, but I have at least 5 more that I want to get out there. I've been writing my whole life. And especially the last 50 years, probably. Mm-hmm. And I like writing every day. I write about politics, but I write also stories and plays and poems. And so I have a lot of fun with that. And then just within the last 8 months or so, my brother encouraged me to start publishing. He told me about the Amazon Kindle KDP and also Kindle Create, which is the app. And I learned how to do that because I have a little bit of computer background. I worked in database development in accounting, and so I figured it out, and it was a lot of fun. Especially have fun doing the covers, but also putting pictures within the text. And it's just been kind of an adventure. I really not looking to make a killing on it or for fame and fortune. I just want to get it out there, but it's you get older and you start thinking, what am I leaving behind?
Right.
And I liked the idea of making a difference in the world. And I'm not sure this does, but some people like it. Some people have bought it. Some have. I've given a lot of books away, and so it's kind of a break-even process.
Well, it's interesting because you've been a member of our show for a long time now, the PDR Posse, and years. I just came about learning about your writing after you would put limericks in our feed all of the times, and I always get a kick out of reading them with some sort of an emotion.
Yeah, I enjoy that. Yeah,
I like to read your limericks because they're always prescient and make sense with whatever politics we're talking about or whatever subject we're talking about. Why don't you? I'm gonna put you on the spot here. Why don't you give me the limerick that you did today? If you don't have it, I can read it.
Well, there's one. I don't know if you read it or not. I gave the one about Trump and being in court. You read that one, but the second one, and it's funny. I wrote this yesterday on a bike ride. I was riding a bike in the neighborhood, and I was thinking about the war in Israel and between Netanyahu and Hamas and all that. And so I wrote this poem in my head, and I kind of fine-tuned it when I got home. So it's not really a traditional limerick. It kind of has some internal rhyme. It says, Netanyahu, look above you. Do you see the rocket's red glare? Hear explosions, raw emotions, bombs bursting everywhere. Gaza's son, Gaza daughter, like Israeli children led to slaughter. Netanyahu, look around you. Feel their pain, show you care.
That's what I'm talking about, folks. That's what I'm talking about. That says everything. He uses a Star-Spangled Banner,
right?
Our anthem, and then he places it onto sort of an injustice that is occurring, based on another injustice that have occurred. I mean, and that's why I like your limericks, because they're generally profound. In other words, it's not just words for the sake of words, but they all have a meaning. And lucky for me, generally, when you put your limericks out there, I pick it up right away. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people pick it up right away. So,
and they're all not always great. Sometimes they're better. Some are better. I thought this one's a little better because it had a little more depth to it. But I just enjoy writing, and sometimes poetry comes out, sometimes prose, sometimes it comes out in a story or a play or something. And we talked about this at Ask Alberto on Saturday, and I tried to stress that when we talked about addiction and how in our country we've got problems with people taking drugs and alcohol and just not not participating much in life, being depressed, and I just think, wow, maybe we all need to be addicted to something, but it should be something good. And I have found that by writing and creating art, that that's kind of my thing. It's kind of my addiction. It gets me away from the TV set. It gets me away to, thinking blue thoughts. It's every day can be a wonderful day if you can get up and create something. So that's what I would encourage people to do is, find your passion and do that. Even if you're working a job you don't like, you have to do that sometimes for a living. And some people think, well, if I'm going to be a poet or a writer, I have to make a living at it. You don't have to do that. You can draw, you can write, you can do anything creative. Even in science, there's a lot of creativity. And do that as a hobby. Do that as something that gets you up in the morning. And then you go to work and you can think about it even at work, in between things. I did a lot. I snuck in a lot of writing while I was working in between, took a break, and I'd jot down a few notes or something, and that would keep me going.
Now, tell me a little bit about yourself, first of all, because you came to our program, Politics Done Right. You kind of just showed up at the program and you became one of our most active participants that always had something to move the discussion forward. What's your background?
Well, I actually, it's kind of strange because I was studied to be a priest way back, 50 some years ago. And I dropped out of the seminary, but really got me into writing and thinking about things deeply. I took philosophy and English in college that was a part of our program to in the seminary. And then I went 1 year beyond to theology, and I said, that's it. I'm not going to do this because it just got boring. And it was all the things about celibacy, and there was all this issues about the church was demanding so much. It was becoming more conservative even at that time. And I thought, well, I'll see what life has. I got drafted right out of that, and I went 2 years in the Army, but I was a conscientious objector. So even then, I decided I was not going to carry a gun or kill anybody in Vietnam. And so I went into the medical corps. I was in the X-ray and got out of that with an honorable discharge. And fortunately, then I was hired by the Veterans Administration, but not in the medical corps. I was just a benefits counselor and ended up eventually in accounting. So that kind of got me. When I retired, I got into working for a private company as their accountant, and on my own I learned database development, and so I was always a student. Even when I was working for the VA, I was always trying to learn something new. So I was trying to learn, coding and everything else, and I got it. So that became a second career for me. And then I just, within the last 10 years, retired from that. So I started picking up my writing again. But even between all that, I was writing all the time. But within the last 5 years or so, I really kind of got more into it. And when COVID hit, we were so isolated. I actually wrote 2 plays in the last couple of years, this Castle of Cards and the Marx Brothers one I wrote, and then another one which I haven't published yet, which is, I think, one of the best ones. It's called Hans Holbein and the Dance of Death, and I'm really looking forward to publishing that one because that has a lot of pictures and art, and it's kind of an art education play, but it's also a play about the life of Hans Holbein, who was a very interesting artist from the 1500s, and that was a lot of fun. So that's kind of I've had kind of a weird background when it comes to getting into this, but politics has always been in kind of the back of my mind. And when I ran across your program, and I can't remember exactly how that happened, I think I was going on YouTube looking for something, and I saw, wow, this looks interesting. So I started participating in it and really liked about the interaction part of it, the fact that you're not just throwing a comment out there, but you're actually reading them and you're interacting with them. And then the Ask Berto was really great because could talk to you directly. So politics has always been kind of in the back of my mind, and even in a lot of my writings, like this one, The Castle of Cards, which is the latest, I added a scene, and I'm working on another one for another edition of it, but where an archbishop and a governor are discussing the current events that are going on about abortion and different moral choices that you have. And it just kind of flows from in between things. So there's a lot of poetry. There's a lot of philosophy, which is my background. And I'm also thinking of literature. I like the plays. We go to plays, and that's another thing. I think I like writing plays the best because it doesn't require a lot of description and a lot of internal monologue. You can just show what you're watching.
Right.
And I love that the best.
Because it's what's going to be acted out on TV or what's going to be acted out on stage or where it's you don't have to create the background.
Right. And I'm always thinking that I think I'm very visual that way. And so I'm trying to picture when I'm writing, I'm trying to think, now how would this look on stage, and how would the characters act, and what are they dressed like, and what is the interaction, and where's the plot going, and how does it end? And it's just, and that's one thing I would encourage anybody to do. If you just do it, just if you have an idea for writing or creating a painting or something, just play around with it and do it. Stick with it, and you'll be surprised what you come up with. And even if it's not great, the process is what's wonderful. It makes you feel alive.
Yesterday when we had, or Saturday when we had our Ask Egberto Anything, one of the reasons that I think I told you, man, we need to get people to hear some of what you had to say. And this is what I'm talking about. First of all, addiction. If we could sort of migrate our addiction to something that is positive, you've done that with your writing. Also, the idea of whatever it is that you do tied into what's occurring today, it makes a lot of sense. Like you've just mentioned, these plays that you write, you've always found a way to weave in today's reality within your play that just somehow seems to give it context. The limerick that you just read, where you took, or Star Spangled Banner, and you tied it into those are great machinations that others can kind of learn from and start to see that these kinds of things make a difference. And when you urge people on to say, look, you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to leave your job to start your passion. You don't have, you can actually start your passion even while working, which I think it's an important thing.
And it makes your life mean. And you hit a good point, the make a difference thing, because I always think of MAD, make a difference. Mm-hmm. But if you don't make a difference, you can go MAD, you can go mad.
Exactly.
Life will just drive you crazy because you'll think, oh, what am I doing? Just every day getting up, going to work, coming home, watching TV or whatever. And it just becomes boring. And I just couldn't stand that. And that's one way I found to make life more meaningful and to try to make a difference. So people have different ways of doing it. I mean, I can understand somebody saying, well, I don't have any talent. Well, everybody's got some talent, and even your talent may be in helping people directly, maybe, just going to a nursing home or going and being involved in a political campaign or something. You can always do something beyond your job and get, have your passion in that. So I just hope people, more and more people do that, and they don't feel discouraged by what's going on in the world.
Well, with people like you around, and having you always there commenting in our program, having you at the Ask Egberto Anything, being an active participant, I think you bring a lot of positive energy to wherever it is that you go, and I think that is really, really important. It is sort of contagious. And I think if more of us became more contagious with just the way we are, we don't all have to fall for that tale about hating everybody, which is something that you bring, liking folk, just coming out there and trying to find the good in every single person, something that I've watched you do in every platform that, that we've all participated in. So tell us a little bit about, before we go here, the name of your books and how can folks get to your book. And of course, I'm going to have the links to your books in the blog for this post as well.
Yes. Well, I've got, like I said, the 5 of them out there right now. The latest one is called Castle of Cards. And then I've got 4 others. Let's see if I can get them all up here on the screen.
I have them up, so I can call them out.
Yeah, there's Castle of Cards. The Secret Life of Paladin. Now that's I had probably the hardest book to write, but it was the most fun. I don't know if people are familiar with Paladin from the old TV series, Have Gun Will Travel. See, I grew up in the 50s and 60s, and that was one of the things that I liked because Paladin was a cowboy, Richard Boone, who was a philosopher, and he was he read literature, but he was also a gunslinger. So I wrote this story about him, but it's kind of a weird story because it talks about both Richard Boone and Paladin. So that the character, there's two elements going on here. The character of Richard Boone, the actual actor, is thinking about his character, and he's writing a story called The Secret Life of Paladin, which this book is about. And so the characters are combined and they go back and forth and they communicate with each other. But it's also about nonviolence and and it's about guns. There's a lot about guns, and I don't want to spoil the ending, but there's a resolution about what the gun is, and it becomes something more than what people think it is. And there's a big discussion about, what we do about all this violence. And this is in the context of the story that goes back in the 60s, but it even goes back in the 1800s when the cowboys were around. So that's why I had fun with it. There's a lot of references to philosophy and religion in it, and some people might find it too deep. Mm-hmm. That's one of the things that I have to be concerned about. I don't write for the regular person. It's not like a Western, like a Zane Grey story. It's there's a lot of philosophy in it. So it may not be everybody's cup of tea, but again, something I really wanted to do and enjoyed. It's got a lot of pictures in it too. It's a semi-graphic novel. And then the Surely You Joust, that was one I came out with not too long ago. That's a completely different type of thing. It's all Marx Brothers. I was studying. I joke about. I said that was my summer that I studied Marx. But it wasn't Karl Marx. It was the Marx Brothers.
The Marx Brothers.
And I was reading all their scripts and watching their movies and things. And I came up with this idea. Well, they never had one about knights in the Middle Ages. I thought, well, I'll do one about that. So I just kind of started writing it, and I had a lot of fun with it. And I don't know if everybody will like it or not, but I just had a lot of fun with the jokes and things. And it's certainly not something that would be acceptable today for the most part, because Groucho Marx was a womanizer, and so was Harpo, and there's a lot of this touching and grabbing and double ententes, and I'm sure that wouldn't go over well. But again, it's something I just wanted to do, and I did it. So then Hugh the Manatee, that was one of the first ones that I published. It's based on the idea that humanity. And I've seen other people try this too. So it's not a completely original idea, but I was surprised to find that other people had published things called humanity, because they're playing on words, but it's about this animal
humanity and humanity. Right. Yeah.
And it's a kind of a adult fable. I guess you could read it to children too, but it's more adult. It's about this humanity. Hugh the Manatee is trying to find himself and trying to figure out how to live. And he goes to all his friends, and some of the friends enjoy eating all the time or playing all the time or, fighting all the time. And he's trying to find meaning in his life. And he ends up going to the Holy Mackerel and finding that he needs to go to the Nothing Atoll to find himself. And so there's a lot of philosophy in it. And, there's a lot of play on words. Right. And I've had some good comments on it. Some people have really liked it as a kind of a way of thinking about life. So it's another meditation. It's kind of written in a poem form. So it's not. It's fairly easy and fairly short. So it's something you might want to look at if you're interested in kind of philosophy. Then The Patient Sailor, and this one I took a long time to write. It several years, and it's really kind of a fantasy about a captain on a sailboat who is a philosopher, and I'm, as an author, am listening to this person talk about all their adventures, and I'm retelling stories that I've heard from the patient sailor, and then the philosophy of his life based on parts of the sailboat. So the mast is considered a connection to the divine. The waves are considered, going across the ocean in life, and the winds are emotions, and the sails are ways of catching creativity. It's you'd have to read it, and it would probably be best if you knew a little something about sailing. But I try to break it down. There are pictures in the book showing different parts of the sailboat, and the stories a lot of times are independent of the actual sailing. I mean, they're based on sailing, but there's a lot of fantasy. It's more of a fable type book, and there's again a lot of philosophy, and I'm hoping people enjoy it. But it's a deeper book. It's one that you don't just pick up and read in one sitting.
Right.
So those are the 5. Yeah,
the 5 books. Well, you know what? I am, first of all, I'm glad that you decided to come on, because I really wanted to talk to you not only about the books that you write, but just the basic humanity that you display in both our chats and our Ask Egberto programs, where we talk real issues. You always bring that humanity to the issues. So, you know what? I always ask at the last, at the end of my interview. So I hope you're prepared. I said, what would you have liked me to ask you that I didn't?
Yeah, it's hard to. Yeah, I was anticipating kind of question, and I was writing. Actually, one of the things I do, and I encourage people to do this. You know, I don't write all the time, but I'm always thinking about writing. Mm-hmm. So, I would encourage people that that want to start living the creative life, that you don't have to create something. It's the process. And even if you're just thinking, if you're thinking about something, you get a thought, write it down. I've a pad of paper next to my bed at night, with a little light on it. I wake up at 2 a.m. and I think, oh, I got to write that down. And I sometimes I spend a half an hour writing. Sometimes I spend just a few minutes. And then I wake up in the morning and I look at that pad and I said, did I write something last night? And I go to I certainly did. And there it is. And I said, I'm glad I wrote that down. Sometimes it's just funny, you know, sometimes it's a joke or something. Sometimes it doesn't mean all that much, but it's fun. I was writing one of the things I wrote, and I'll read this. Here's what I wrote the other night. I said, we are all on death row, awaiting our execution day. The only choice we have now is how to use our remaining time. Do we count the hours left, distracting ourselves with amusements, or do we become better persons, helping other humans by relieving their suffering, creating art or inventions that enrich and improve life for our fellow mortals? The main challenge for each of us is to live up to our potential by following your bliss, as Joseph Campbell said, and lose your life to save it, as Jesus said. So this kind of, again, one of the things I think about a lot is, you know, my life as I get older, and we don't know how long we're going to live, but I'm trying to do something that will help somebody or make a difference in somebody's life, either now or later. And that's kind of thing. In fact, I wrote this thought down just last night. I said, my books are my tombstone. My writing is my epitaph. So, I mean, this is my way of approaching it. Now, everybody might think, well, that's kind of morbid, but, think about it. Maybe it'll help you.
Tom Czarnik, I think we end it right there. Thank you so kindly.
Thank you,
for having been on Politics and Right.
Thank you for inviting me, and I look forward to continue communicating and interacting with you in the months and years to come. Great job.
Thank you.
Bye now.
I think the sound is back. What happened is, after a while, when you don't talk for a while, these mics go into fail-safe, or rather energy saving mode. So anyway, Wolf Bear 7, I get discouraged, but then I get so terrified by the twisted sociopathic thinking out there that I'm forced to take action to fix things. Think globally, act locally. I love that. And let me just say one thing, brother Wolf Bear 7 or sister Wolf Bear 7. I don't know your gender, but let me just say this. That's why we're here. Anytime you feel discouraged, you got a posse. You got the PDR posse, because we got to keep things going. The expectation of a plutocracy, the expectation of an oligarchy, the expectation is that we are going to get so tired of fighting. We're going to get so tired of doing what we need to do that we're going to throw our hands up in the air and just say, I tell you what, do whatever you will with us. No. The fight never ends. You know why? Because they never end fighting. They never end looking out for themselves. So you got to keep it going. And whenever you get discouraged, hey guys, we are here. Whenever you get discouraged and you need a pep talk, hey guys, we are here. We never ever. Let me listen to this. Listen to this naturalized American from Panama. We never, ever give in. We never, ever give in. All right? We never, ever give in. All right, let's see what else we got here. Coming down. Great interviews, Lee Grant says. Eric says, go get your 100 KKKKKKKK. Don't know what that means, but I imagine it means something. Hey, welcome aboard, May Wood. Haven't seen you here until now, so if I missed you earlier, forgive me. Bridge also loved the interview. Let's see. I'm scrolling up to see what else people are saying here that I may have missed. You know, it's a whole lot of stuff scrolling. So because it's coming in from all the channels, I put it all here in one. So I miss a whole lot. Carl Cox is in the house. Carl, been seeing you in a while. Says conservatives claim to know about financial literacy, but they do not. Never have, never will. America practices crony capitalism. I mean, we like to say America practices crony capitalism. What I like to say, America practices capitalism. There's nothing crony about it. That is what it is. I think, I'm starting not to try to qualify and call it crony because it ultimately devolves into a what we have become, because that's what it turns. So Tom C says, thank you, Egberto. Hope everybody got something out of that interview. You too, Daniel. Look, I'm pretty sure that your humanity showed. Let's see what else we got here. Para ver, because I don't have any more videos and we have 3 minutes to go. So if you want to tell me anything or if you want to give me a call to it, I always forget to say, since I'm at on the other show now, but you can give me a call. 281-823-7747. 281-823-7747. If you want to say something real quickly before we end. Before we go, though, I'd like to remind everybody that this is a show that is supported by you, owned by you. In fact, as you just saw, we had an interview with one of our own who had quite a bit to say. Please consider supporting us. And how do you do that? You can support us by going to politicsdoneright.com/support. Politicsdoneright.com/support is the way you have the many different options in which to support us. You can also contribute by saying, I want to be, first of all, subscribing to our newsletter is free. Let me just say that. Subscribing to our newsletter is free. It is up to you, and I ask you, as many as you can, to do it. Please consider becoming a paid subscriber. Going to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. We send out a newsletter with the KPFT program every morning at 5 a.m. for the 6 a.m. program, so that you know what we're going to talk about on the 6 a.m. program. And I also send out, if I have something that I want to say to you, I send out periodically on that newsletter. Likewise, anybody who is a paid subscriber of the Politics Done Right newsletter, which is called Egberto on the Run, Egberto on the Record, Egberto off the Record, anybody who subscribed to that newsletter has access online to all of my books, both my current books, my past books, and my future books. So please consider going to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter and subscribe, become a paid subscriber. You immediately get access to all our books. P says, Egberto Uliz, in that link I sent you, a leaked document from Israel Intelligence Ministry dated less than 1 week after October 7, Hamas attack proposes a permanent transfer of Gaza's residents to Egypt. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu confirmed the document's authenticity, but dismissed the pure concept paper. I saw that. While Egypt and much of the Arab world has publicly opposed the forced displacement of millions of Palestinians. Again, that is a definition of genocide, right? Again. Carl Cox says, Egberto, being busy trying to pass classes this semester. If it works out, I need to pass another upper level class, singular, during the spring 2024 and graduate in 2024. And we are giving you the positive affirmation, Carl Cox, to go do it. So let's not just talk about it, Carl Cox. Do it. Carl Cox, hey, before I go, let me tell you all the folks that are in the room right now that have been interviewed on Politics Done Right. Carl Cox has been interviewed on Politics Done Right. Bridge MCP has been interviewed on Politics Done Right. Tom C has been interviewed on Politics Done Right. Paul Fleming has been interviewed on Politics Done Right. Am I missing anybody? Am I missing Norman Reynolds have been interviewed on Politics Done Right. And if you have something that you want to come out and say that our audience, our PDR posse and the rest of the world wants to hear or needs to hear, drop me a line and say, Egberto, I'm ready for a 15 to 20 minute interview, and we'll get it done. Because again, I am the guy who believes in the people. The people. We are the ones who get things done. We're the ones who make things happen. So once again, folks, please subscribe to our newsletter or provide some other support. politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. politicsdoneright.com/support. Anyway, my name is Egberto Willis. I got to get out of here. My name is Egberto Willis. This is Politics Done Right. And you know how I end this baby. How do I end it again? I am what? Out.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number 1, subscribe to our channel. And number 2, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.